Can a stupidly simple game really make $100,000 and change my family's life? What if I told you that one of the simplest mobile games ever made was earning more than $50,000 a day? No fancy graphics, no deep story, no multiplayer, just one mechanic and millions of frustrated players. So the real question is, if that already happened once, why couldn't it happen again? This channel is about building in public. No hype, no fake screenshots, no overnight success stories. Just a simple mobile game and a very real goal. I built a 1-bit mobile game called Dino Flip. The idea is stupidly simple. You flip gravity or you die. But why am I doing this publicly instead of quietly? Because this isn't about downloads. It's about money. $100,000. Every week, I'll show exactly what happened, what worked, what failed, and how far this game gets me toward that number. But here's the part most people don't know. This exact idea has already worked before. A game so simple, it made its creator walk away from millions. So the real question isn't whether a simple game can make money. It's why almost nobody dares to try anymore. How does a game that looks like it was made in a weekend end up changing someone's life overnight? Because that's exactly what happened. When people talk about viral success, they imagine a mastermind, a genius strategy, a big team, a huge budget. But this story starts with the opposite. One developer, a simple mobile game, and a mechanic so frustrating people couldn't stop trying. And here's the part that most people miss. It wasn't even supposed to be a big game. It was supposed to be a small game. If you ever played a simple rage game, you know the feeling. You tap, you die. You try again, you die. And then your brain goes, one more? That's the addiction loop. The game doesn't feel unfair. It feels like you are the problem. And that's dangerous because it makes you believe the next run will be different. That's why simple games explode. They don't require learning menus. They require learning you. But none of this explains the real mystery. Why did it suddenly blow up? The most brutal truth about virality is this. You can't schedule it. Flappy Bird didn't launch with a big campaign. It spread because people started sharing the same emotion, frustration, screenshots, rage posts. This game is impossible. And that emotion is contagious. It turned into a social challenge. How far can you get? So how does a weekend-looking game change someone's life overnight? Because it becomes a shared challenge, and the internet does the marketing for you. But now, here comes the darker part. What would you do if your simple game started making more money per day than you ever dreamed? Most people would celebrate, but the creator of Flappy Bird did something almost nobody understands. He deleted it. And in the next block, I'm going to tell you why. Because that reason is the exact thing I'm scared of with Dino Flip. Was it guilt, pressure, legal issues, or something deeper? Let's break it down, because the lesson is pure gold. Why would someone delete a game that was making more than $50,000 a day? That doesn't make sense unless money wasn't a real problem. At its peak, Flappy Bird wasn't just popular. It was everywhere. Phones, classrooms, offices, subways. And behind that game was a single developer, Dongguin. No team, no PR department, no shield. Just one human watching his game explode. And the more the game grew, the worse it got. People weren't just playing the game. They were blaming it. Parents said it was addictive. Teachers said it was a distraction. Players said it was ruining their phones. Imagine waking up every day knowing that millions of people are angry because of something you made. No filters. No community managers. Just your inbox. That kind of attention doesn't feel like success. It feels like being hunted. So one day, he did the unthinkable. He pulled the game from the store. No warning. No goodbye tour. No last chance to download. Just gone. Why would someone delete a $50,000 a day game? Because the cost wasn't financial. It was mental. And this is where the story stops being about Flappy Bird and starts being about me. Because when I decided to build Dino Flip in public, I didn't just choose money. I chose visibility, pressure, and accountability. My goal is $100,000. But my real challenge isn't just reaching that number. It's making sure the process doesn't destroy me before I get there. So the real question becomes, can I take the lessons from Flappy Bird without repeating its mistakes? In the next block, I'll break down exactly what I'm copying from Flappy Bird and what I'm deliberately avoiding. Because simple games make money, but unmanaged success has a price. If Flappy Bird already showed the formula, why doesn't everyone just copy it? Because copying the surface is easy. Copying the discipline is not. Most developers misunderstand simple games. They think simple means cheap, lazy, low effort. But simple games are actually ruthless. Every extra feature is a distraction. Every menu is friction. Every cool idea is a potential failure point. That's why Dino Flip has one rule. In Dino Flip, you only make one decision. Flip or don't. That's it. No power-ups. No characters. No tutorials longer than 5 seconds. If you die, it's not because the game cheated. It's because you hesitated. But simplicity alone doesn't make money. So what's the second rule? Bad games feel random. Good, simple games feel personal. When you fail, your brain says, I can do better. That's the difference between rage quitting and coming back. I tuned Dino Flip, so deaths feel deserved. No cheap hits. No unfair spawns. Just precision. Here's the part one didn't expect to learn from Flappy Bird. You don't just need limits inside the game. You need limits around it. I don't check stats every hour. I don't chase every comment. I work in weekly blocks. Because I'm not trying to go viral tomorrow. I'm trying to survive long enough to reach $100,000. So why doesn't everyone just copy Flappy Bird? Because simple games demand restraint. And restraint is uncomfortable. But that discomfort is exactly where leverage lives. Now that you know the rules, let me show you what actually happened this week with Dino Flip. The numbers, the mistakes, and why progress doesn't look like success yet. So what actually happens when you try to build a game like this in the real world? Not the Twitter version. The real one. When people imagine building a game, they imagine momentum. Downloads going up, numbers refreshing, validation. But this week looked nothing like that. No explosion, no spike, just silence. And that silence messes with your head. Here's what actually happened this week. 8 downloads, some reviews, 15 cents. That's it. No tricks, no rounding up. And here's the dangerous thought that shows up next. Is this a signal or just noise? This is where most people quit. They confuse early silence with failure. But silence at the beginning is normal because distribution always lags behind creation. This week wasn't about growth. It was about stability. Fixing one tiny thing that most players will never consciously notice. And then something small happened. One comment, one repeat player, one session that lasted longer than the rest. That's how momentum actually starts. Quietly. So what really happens when you build a game like this? Nothing spectacular. And that's exactly why it works. But here's what makes next week different. I'm changing one thing. Just one. And that change will tell me if Dino Flip has a future or not. So, can a stupidly simple game really make $100,000 and change my family's life? Here's the honest answer. I don't know. And that's the point. If I already knew the outcome, this wouldn't matter. What I do know is this. Simple games have done it before. Ordinary people have done it before. And the only difference between them and everyone else is that they kept going when nothing was happening. This isn't about chasing virality. It's about building something small, consistently, week by week, even when the numbers are boring, even when nobody is watching. Because behind this game, there's a real reason. Real bills, real parents, and a real chance to change our situation. Not overnight, but deliberately. So can a simple game really make $100,000? Yes, but only if the person building it is willing to be patient long after the excitement is gone. Next week, I'll show you the one change I'm making to Dino Flip, the smallest adjustment, and the fastest way to tell if this game has real potential or not. No hype, just proof. If you want to see what happens when someone commits publicly, subscribe. I'll see you next week.